Let's jump right into today's explainer, where we're breaking down an absolutely fascinating textual and numerical puzzle. We're looking at a presentation from a YouTube channel that zeroes in on some really intriguing mathematical patterns surrounding the story of Jesus, or Isa as he's known in Arabic, right within the text of the Quran. Now, whether you're a scholar of these texts or you just, love a really good literary mystery, the way this source meticulously pulls apart the wording is literally mind-bending. Let's see what they found.
Okay, so to kick things off, we need to focus on a very specific number, 33. The entire foundation of this channel's theory rests on a baseline fact that actually bridges different faith traditions. According to both Islamic traditions, specifically authentic hadiths about the age of people entering heaven, and widely accepted biblical sources, 33 years is the traditionally accepted lifespan of Jesus during his time on earth. So lock that number in your head, 33, because it's absolutely crucial for everything the source reveals next. Now, what's really wild here is the stark contrast in the timeline of prophethood. The source points out that, typically, prophets receive their divine revelation and start their missions around the age of 40. But Jesus? He's totally unique in the Quranic narrative. He doesn't wait until adulthood. Instead, he's depicted as a prophet from the literal moment he's born, at age 0. The channel emphasizes that the Quran honors him with unique miracles right from the start, like speaking incredibly eloquently straight from the cradle. Which brings us to part 1 of the analysis, the first cradle call, comforting Mary. To see exactly how this unfolds, the creator takes us straight to chapter 19 of the Quran, right to the moments immediately following Jesus' birth.
This source paints a pretty intense scene for us. Mary is completely alone, she's just given birth, and she is entirely overwhelmed. She's in such despair she even wishes she had been forgotten entirely. But right in that moment, a miraculous voice calls out from beneath her. And according to this analysis, this is the very first time the infant Jesus speaks. He comforts his mother, tells her not to grieve, points out a stream of water beneath her, and even tells her to shake a palm tree for fresh dates. He basically says, eat, drink, take comfort, and, this is key, he tells her to take a vow of silence. He instructs her to signal to anyone she mates that she won't be speaking to a single human today.
And this sets up the creator's first massive claim. The channel host uses software to highlight and meticulously count the exact Arabic words of this specific, comforting speech from the newborn Jesus. If you track every single word of this monologue, starting right from "do not grieve" all the way down to "I will not speak today to any human," a very distinct pattern starts to emerge.
The total word count of that exact first speech lands perfectly on 33 words. Not 32, not 34, exactly 33. The source makes a huge point here. This word count flawlessly matches the accepted 33-year earthly lifespan of the very infant who's speaking.
Now, for the channel presenting all this, there's no way this is just a coincidence. But you have to wonder, right? One instance of a word count matching a lifespan could just be a quirky literary coincidence. So the immediate question is, does this mathematical pattern actually happen again in the text? Let's find out. In part 2, Christ's words to the people, defending his mother. The narrative pushes forward as Mary brings the child back to her people, and man, they immediately start questioning and accusing her, totally shocked, reminding her she comes from a good family.
Because Mary took that vow of silence, she just points to the infant. The people are completely baffled, like, how are we supposed to talk to a baby in a cradle? And that is exactly when Jesus speaks for the second time. The channel spotlights this second, much longer monologue where the child actually defends his mother. He declares himself a servant of God, talks about the scripture given to him, and prophesies his own future. Now, we're going to count the words of this second speech too, but first, the source points out a really specific, almost hidden detail.
Right before we get to the final count, the creator highlights a truly fascinating linguistic anomaly buried right in the middle of this verse. In standard Arabic spelling, the word for wherever, which is aynama, is written as one single combined word. But in this specific Quranic script, known as the rasm, it is deliberately split into two distinct words, aina and ma. The source notes this is a major, highly unusual departure from normal spelling rules.
So what's the deal with that? Why split that one specific word? Well, the source argues it was done strictly for the math. By splitting wherever into two separate words, it intentionally bumps up the overall word count of this second speech. When they track the words again, starting from "Indeed, I am the servant of Allah," and progressing all the way through, something pretty striking happens.
Thanks to that intentionally split word, the total count of the words Jesus speaks to the people hits exactly 33 words. Again,
The source firmly argues this proves the spelling split wasn't some ancient typo, but a perfectly calculated move to make sure the speech landed on that precise number, matching his lifespan for a second time.
Moving right along to Part 3, Mystery of Words and Verses, the final correlation. Because this mathematical detective work doesn't just stop at word counts. There is one final layer to this puzzle that ties the themes and the numbers together in a really visual way.
The explainer asked us to look at the actual meaning of the words right at the end of this count. The final phrase of this second 33-word speech translates to, "Peace is upon me the day I was born, the day I die, and the day I am resurrected alive." So that 33rd word perfectly caps off a complete summary of his entire existence: his birth, his lifespan, his death, and his resurrection.
And right here is where the creator drops their biggest surprise yet. You know how verses in the Quran are numbered physically in the text, right? Well, if you look at the physical verse number where this second 33-word speech perfectly concludes,
It lands exactly on verse 33 of Surah Maryam. Let's just recap that really quickly. We've got his universally accepted lifespan of 33 years. We've got his first speech to his mother being exactly 33 words. We've got his second speech to the people being exactly 33 words, thanks to a very specific spelling split. And the verse that concludes that second speech, summarizing his entire life and death, it's verse 33.
Which brings us to Part 4, the channel's miracle conclusion, interpreting the pattern. So, what does this actually all mean to the source presenting the data? Well, they see these intersecting numbers as an undeniable, completely deliberate pattern. The creator challenges viewers directly, basically asking how anyone could find a standard scientific explanation that just waves this all off as chance.
In fact, the creator concludes with a super bold statement. They view this massive numerical alignment, the lifespan, the double 33-word counts, the spelling anomaly fixing the math, and that final verse number as intended mathematical proof. For the source, this is quite literally a miracle embedded right in the text, meant to be discovered using modern digital tools to validate both the text and the story of Jesus.
So, as objective observers exploring this explainer together, we've laid out the channel's findings exactly as they presented them. And now, we're turning it over to you. When you look at the 33 words, the 33 years, and verse 33, what do you see? Is this just a really intricate literary coincidence that naturally formed over centuries, or is it, as the source insists, a deliberate, hidden mathematical puzzle that was just waiting for digital tools to finally uncover it? It for sure gives you something fascinating to chew on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the source material, and as always, keep questioning the details.